Your move.
Welcome back to Disney Marvels for week of June 26, 2022. This is episode 182. Disney Marvels, the show about Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Muppets, Pixar, 20th Century, the parks, and much, much more. If it has to do with Disney, it's fair game. I'm your host, Matthew Graykin. So, put the poll out there. It was a little late, but I got the poll out there. The poll's back and going again. And with 4th of July coming up, Independence Day here in the United States, I had to be a little selfish. But Walt would approve it because Walt was selfish this way as well. I had to talk about America for America's birthday. And my question was, what's your favorite Disney Parks version of America? I know there's many more than what I listed, but these are the primary ones that I put out there. And no one said anything different, so this is what we're going with. Main Street, USA. The American Pavilion in Epcot, New Orleans Square, which is in Disneyland, and Liberty Square, which is in the Magic Kingdom. And thank you to everyone who answered. And, I'll start off this way. 17%. Well, I have to go with the lowest one. The lowest one's always first, right? Yes. The American Pavilion, no one voted for that one. Sorry, no love for the American Pavilion in Epcot. I feel bad, but I that's how the people voted, and that's how we have to go with it. 17% said Liberty Square in the Magic Kingdom. Liberty Square got 17%. 25% said New Orleans Square. 25% of you like New Orleans Square. But outstanding, is that even a real word? Outstanding. The majority goes to, with a 58% vote, Main Street, USA, in all of its incarnations around the world. That is your favorite version of Disney's America. It's fantastic, fantastic. Well, speaking of Disney's America, or speaking of America, I hope everyone has a happy, safe and healthy Independence Day here in the United States. Everywhere else, I hope you just have a fantastic and wonderful July 4th or 4th of July. And hope just celebrate in your own little way. And today, I do want to mention now, because I don't mention it later in the episode, we will be talking about Kenobi Episode 6. There will be spoilers, so consider yourselves warned. Spoilers are abound on this side of the break. And speaking of the break, we'll be back after these words from our friends and sponsors.
Hey Matthew, Jim Hill here. I do the Marvelous Disney podcast with Aaron Adams over at the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. I know, very humble sounding name. Anyway, I really enjoy what you've been doing over on the Disney Marvels podcast, but as you probably already noticed, the Marvel Us Disney and the Disney Marvels podcast names are very, very similar, which is why I imagine I keep getting mail for you. That's actually why I'm calling today. I wanted to know what you'd like me to do with all of these Yankee Candle catalogs, so please get back to me. And keep up the great work with the Disney Marvels podcast.
Thank you for those kind words, Jim. And make sure to check out Jim Hill on the Marvel Us Disney podcast with Aaron Adams to find out all sorts of wonderful things about Disney, well, Marvel, particularly what's going on with them. And Jim, those catalogs, I'll make sure to give you the forwarding address. And unless if you want to order something, go right ahead. And once again, make sure to check out Marvel Us Disney with Jim Hill and Aaron Adams wherever you find or listen to your podcasts. And now, on with the show. The final episode of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series has come at us like a rancor ready to rumble. And I have so much I want to say about this episode, and I don't want to speak alone because it gets boring when I talk to myself. And I think you guys get bored when I talk to myself. So therefore, I had to bring in somebody who has recently changed his last name to Skywalker and has appeared now on a few episodes. So, Dave Goldman, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Matt.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And then a guy who always likes to dress in black, but also wields a very lethal lightsaber and is one with the Force as he walks amongst us. It is Sir Isaac. Welcome back, Isaac.
I'm back. Yeah, definitely. Dress in black, sure. Yeah, guys. Thank you for having me back on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Oh, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Yeah, well, we've reached this point. We are at the end of Kenobi. It feels like it was only a few weeks ago whenever we were gathered together to talk about parts 1 and 2, and now here we are talking about part 6. I would, there's no title, so I can't say what the title of the episode was other than part 6. But it was quite the send off, quite the series. I know we've talked many things, or just recently last week, Isaac, we were talking about some things that didn't feel completely right with the series yet, or it was heading in one direction or another. But we are here at the end. We have survived, and let's get down to it. I mean, for me, that opening scene was just beautiful. Where you had Vader on the bridge of the Star Destroyer, looking out into the vastness as they were attacking the refugee ship. Very much like the opening of A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you guys think, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. That scene, especially with the the Grand Inquisitor on deck with him, totally cool. I was on board, man, right away. It started it was a little. The first 5 minutes of this episode, I wasn't sure which direction they were going, but it did pick up once they started chasing Kenobi. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh crap, here we go. Don't flop.
Once the chase was on.
Yes.
Isaac, what did you take of it?
Again, for what the episode needed to do, it again, like we talked about the last podcast. This was the point where they needed to kind of ramp it up and kind of had to put it into full gear to kind of hopefully delivered a pretty decent ending, and for what that episode did, it did accomplish some very fun and some very cool moments. Basically, like you said, seeing Darth Vader and Inquisitor sharing the same room and overlooking the servants in the bottom and stuff like that too. But for what the episode needed to do, it was a cool fan service moment, in more ways than one. So it wasn't bad.
Yeah. I think even just on the ship, and even though it was a slower point, it was kind of like, okay, where are we going? Where are we going? It took a few moments to get there, but I think we had some very, very strong character moments on there.
Mm-hmm.
In some dialogue, some really nice dialogue going on, where you have between either Roken and Obi-Wan, or even Leia and Obi-Wan. Where, let's see here, I actually have it written down. Obi-Wan goes to Leia. When I said before that I didn't know your parents, right? Before that, I don't know your parents. Princess Leia, you are wise, discerning, and kind-hearted. These are qualities that came from your mother, but you are also passionate and fearless, forthright, and these are gifts from your father. Both were exceptional people who bore an exceptional daughter. That was, I think, a very powerful moment. And then the other one that I really, really liked when Obi-Wan was talking to Roken, and basically saying he's going Obi-Wan's going to sacrifice himself to lead Vader away, so that way they have time to escape. And Roken goes, "Wait, this isn't about us. This is something that you want to do, that you want to face Vader. You're not looking for, you're not looking to save us, but you're looking to confront Vader. It's slightly different perspective on that." And Obi-Wan, he won't admit to it. He says, "Just keep them safe." And Roken's like, "Keep it yourself safe too." And then Obi-Wan turns to him, and I love this line. He goes, "Roken, there are not many leaders left. People follow you. Don't stop." Which his response is, "I'm just getting started." And I'm wondering if this is something that we are going to be seeing more of soon. If this is a character that, all purposes, it is a character that could possibly show up in Andor. That's complete speculation, and I do not know if this is going to be the case or not.
Yeah, well, he fits in perfectly. You have some guys that are on. I think Isaac brought it up last week with some people just being on Star Wars just to put it on the checklist.
Mm-hmm.
His character just blends in perfectly there. He fits in. He's comfortable in Star Wars. So I would love to see him in something else.
Yeah. Definitely O'Shea Jackson was a very surprising standout within this series. It's clear that for a dude that's everybody know him for being the son of Ice Cube, for him to step in, as an actor, and he's grown to be very more a bigger, well-dimensional actor from this time. People remember him in this time being straight out of Compton to now moving into a series like this, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's great to kind of see him take these growing steps as a fantastic actor and building his chops, and to kind of build up a really cool character that, like you said, we could see in Andor. And he could definitely be maybe a small leader of a resistance and play an interesting core part into leading into that series. That's if he does show up into that series, which is more grounded and more level. I think a character like that could use. Hopefully a show like Andor could use a little bit more levity in a character like what Jackson Jr. has brought to the show at the moment.
Yeah, Andor can go either way. Even this, the way that the trailer started off is a little more lighthearted, but then quickly gets dark with much more heavier undertones.
Yeah,
of what's going on. So I don't know which way that series is going to go. But yeah, this is. I don't think we're done seeing this character.
I hope not. Like you said, this could be a character that could, hopefully fit into whatever series that they move on forward. Maybe I don't want to jump the gun in terms of how we feel about the series as a whole and what they should do moving forward. But yeah, no, he's a great option. Great option moving forward.
So yeah, then we get Vader. Obi-Wan lands on a undescript planet that I'm not sure we've ever seen before. They didn't mention it. I didn't check to see the subtitles to see if it mentioned anything.
It didn't. I had them on. I was just watching. Nothing popped up that I saw.
So just some random rocky planet. And it's he leaves Lola right there, kind of a touching moment. And next thing we know, we have I'm going to stick with the Obi-Wan side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Vader comes down, and they meet again. Alas, we meet again for the first time, for the last time.
How cool was it seeing him come out of that Imperial shuttle, man? Come on.
Awesome. Just the way that he walked and presented himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it really set the tone, and it was a lot of things I felt were a throwback to the way that episode 3 was wrapping up. So, let's Dave, what did you think of the way that battle played out?
That was all right. So to rewind, I thought part 3 was fantastic. The battle scene that they had there, I was on point with. But after that, it was okay. How can they match that? And we got that and more, I think, in this in the final battle in part 6. It was the what was it? It was the point where Kenobi connects back to his Jedi altogether, 100%. Throws the rocks off of him after being buried in the hole, and now he is more powerful than Vader, and he's chucking the rocks back at him. It was, it was awesome.
Yeah. For that, the final battle piece, I'll share some of your sentiment. Yeah, it was from where, between everything that we've had, between where technology has evolved in terms of special effects, because I know LucasArts has always been one of the studios that have been one of the grandfathers of trying to push for more bigger special effects. And it continues to do that. So it really is a very interesting time period of where you've seen LucasArts and special effects when the first 3 films came back out around the 80s, and then to the next step to where you see the films come out in the 90s with the episodes. And even only with the last trilogy in terms of the leaps of where technology has taken steps from, and how special effects have gotten even bigger and better, and simply more robust. And in that fight scene, you really got to see where the special effects where you really got to see both Vader and Obi-Wan really be able to flex their power in terms of being the Force and all that stuff. But in terms of how the battle and how the rhythm of the fight was going, that being said, in terms of how, as a story piece, it was okay. I'm not gonna say it was the grandest of things. It's just kind of like, because I've, at this point, watching so many action movies, and you really kind of see how the set pieces are building up. They've had some really cool moments. You'll have a great sequence, and then, Vader clearly will throw everything at our hero, the protagonist, and then hero montage pops up where the character has to remember that you're the chosen one. It has you could do anything if you believe in it, and then poof, blows up, and then all of a sudden I am the chosen one. Blah blah blah. Throw mountain. I'm the best, and then cut scene. And then leave antagonist running with his tail between his legs, licking his wounds. So in terms of the sequence, it's unfortunately a case by numbers sequence. You knew the beats of what was happening to the end, and I think that's another issue. That's kind of unfortunately reflected by, I want to say, it's story constraints in terms of the continuity. I'm sorry, I'm slurring through my words. Between the time beats of what this series can do, because again, like it felt like it was a series that had some restraints to it though. But that fight scene was, a by the numbers fight scene. So
yeah, and it had like just visually and like when they clash their sabers together, and you just see that big blue glow on Kenobi's face as they're like struggling. And even when he bashed that breathing panel on his chest, and you heard that iconic like raspy Vader, it's just they did a lot of stuff that was just cool.
And a lot of it was throwbacks to other movies.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Where you were talking about Anakin getting thrown into the ground was actually alluding to, again, the third movie where Kenobi goes, Anakin, I have the high ground.
Yeah.
Well, this flipped that. Vader has the high ground, or Anakin has the high ground on that one, and Kenobi's, further down. The bashing of the chest, that was to Return of the Jedi, where Vader's chest piece got damaged in that one, which is inevitably what more or less killed him. And then one of my favorite moments were the helmet strike, is when Vader fought Ahsoka in Rebels. So actually that's at this point yet to come. But these are all taken from other Vader conflict or battles. But I wanted to step back to the technology part that you were talking about, where this was all filmed with the Void, which is what the Mandalorian uses, the Void technology, where it's basically just a giant video game screen. And to think where that was cutting edge for Mandalorian, and just to see how much further that's come along now in Kenobi, and just how much even crisper and more amazing these things have become and gotten. It's what they're doing at ILM is just probably beyond what George ever thought they would be able to accomplish, because that's something that he's always tried to push. That was with the prequels. He was trying to push the technology, which he did at that time, going a lot more digital than films at that time had done. A lot of people were saying some of their uses of green screen technology. That is incorrect. Green screen's been around since the 70s. So that's not new. But it is, for its counterparts, they used a lot more than what was being used in the film industry at that time. Nowadays, most movies are CGI animated, and you have one or two, you have a few people that aren't. But look at Transformers. It's basically an animated movie with a live person in it. Off topic, I was watching catching the end of Bumblebee, and remembering that Haley Steinfeld is in that, and I loved her in that movie, and how much I loved her in Hawkeye too. She does such a good job, and Into the Spider-Verse, great job in all those. The only three movies that I've seen her in, or three things I've seen her in, but love watching her every time she's on the screen. Back to Star Wars.
We're back.
The conflict between them, it is nothing's going to happen. And this is kind of said where I said towards the beginning of the when we first talked about this, is that unfortunately of the main characters, they all survive, they all come out of it. That aside, though, I'm going to have to say is one of my favorite lightsaber battles. I've always knocked Star Wars for its lightsaber battles, and here we get one that is actually very well choreographed, nicely done. Isaac, as I mentioned to you last week, the visuals that they have put into this, with the lighting effects from the lightsabers and the other elements around, the visuals are beautiful. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. When lightsabers clash, sparks and the light effect that comes off of it has gone so much further than what we got 45 years ago. It is 46 years ago. 45, right? 45. Yeah, 70, 77, 45. They've come so much. Can't even say how much further they've come, but it is just so beautiful to watch now. These for the special effects alone. Again, the choreographing, like I said, knock Star Wars for its lightsaber battles. Again, we get another really good one. Absolutely loved it. Makes up for episode 3's lightsaber battle at the end.
Oh,
Sorry. Some people love it.
I loved part 3. Come on.
Yeah. But you have to say, this lightsaber battle is better than that lightsaber.
That was better. That's what I was just saying. You know, I was riding off that high, and I didn't know where if they could equal that, and they went much higher. So I was impressed.
And correct me if I'm wrong. The way it started off with the wording was almost, I think, line for line, how they started off the battle in episode 3.
Yeah, very simple.
Are you here to destroy me? Yeah. I have to do what I have to do, basically. You know, it's kind of the same way that, you're repeating yourselves. Come on. I know it's been 10 years, but please.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you gotta love you gotta love lazy writing. Anyway, no, with the fight choreography, which was what I was kind of thinking, because of it's almost like a weird way where the fight choreography has to almost honor what was done 10 years ago in terms of episode 3, like you said. Because that was my mind. Because then again, you take the next hop into New Hope, where clearly is the last time that Obi-Wan takes on Darth Vader within that time frame period. So I don't know. I don't know in my mind. Like, okay, like I feel like they have to make where the fighting couldn't be too fancy or over dramatic, because it would have to streamline comfortably once once we get into New Hope. So in terms of the fight sequence and how for what both Haydenson and McGregor can do, I thought it was decently well done, in terms of the dance and how they were able to kind of work together and always trying to make, like, I know that Darth Vader is a cool character, but like, you're talking about a big heavy dude. Like, he moves very heavy, like it's big heavy strikes, versus Obi-Wan, who has a little bit more flair in terms of like, he'll do like a back guard, and then swing.
He's got more versatility.
He's more versatile. He's a little bit more grace over the more heavier swinging Darth Vader, because Darth Vader's not really known for a lot of that. He's just known for like heavy big strikes and then with the normal force power stuff. So.
Well, and they did talk about that in the previous episode, where they're having the flashback and the two of them fighting, where Anakin or Vader always goes for the driving blow and is using his force and his might to defeat his opponents, where Anakin is using the force and using his mind to counter his opponents, and isn't going for the death blow every time. And you see that in this choreography. The other thing you also have to keep in mind is Vader, his arms and his legs are machines. So you're not going to get the graceful movements out of it. I mean, even just to watch how he walks. Yeah. He has just a very a heavy march to him. He never runs, because he probably can't. But he has a very heavy march to him. There's a lot of weight. You feel the weight of the darkness. You could really look into the metaphors and everything that is presented through Vader, through his movements and through his actions. The weight of the dark side that weighs him down and keeps him under movement, slower movements. He is all about the power and the power struggle and going for the heavy blow. And he's he's always focused on the big picture and the big attack or the big moments. Where Anakin or where I always get them mixed up.
Yeah, I think you're getting
Kenobi.
Mixed up. Yeah,
Kenobi is going for he is analyzing everything more and looking for the right moments in the right turns to be able to do stuff, and looking for the opportunities to present themselves and playing the long game and the patience, and understanding that it's not based on that very moment, but the moment will come when it presents itself. And again, going for that more graceful and being more in tune to the moment and in tune to what is going around in his surroundings, which is what the Force and the Jedi is about.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, analyzing the dance, as it were, of this battle. And it ends again, like I said, with the blow to the helmet. You get the part where you reveal the person. I'll leave it at that. The person underneath the mask, and Obi-Wan sees him for the first time. Sorry, Isaac.
Put this suit in the fridge so he can eat it.
Okay, so the lines there, where the dialogue between the two of them, where Kenobi you sees him goes Anakin, and Vader, you get the wheezing, and the way that the voicing was, the voice work there, I think, was amazing, because it starts off as Anakin's voice and you hear Vader's voice creeping in, and slowly taking over. It's not there at first, but each line there's more and more Vader to it, and I thought that was brilliant.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, the directing skills the directing that Chloe had for this series. I think a lot of this series rode on her directing abilities, and she did such a fantastic job. And so Vader goes, Anakin is gone, I'm what remains. Obi-Wan says, I'm sorry, Anakin, still feeling responsible for this, for what he became. He said, I apologize for it all. And Vader, it's like, I am not your failure, Obi-Wan. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did. Mm-hmm. And that is just, to me, that's a powerful, powerful line.
Yeah, that was powerful enough to clear Obi-Wan's conscience of any guilt whatsoever that was, affiliated with his training of him turning into Vader.
Mm-hmm. And he continues, the same way I will destroy you. And then Obi-Wan, again, foreshadowing into what was said in Jedi by Luke Skywalker, then my friend is truly dead.
Mm-hmm.
Goodbye, Darth. And then Obi-Wan was stupid and walks away.
Well, he calls him Darth. Didn't Obi-Wan in A New Hope call him Darth as well? I think I could have sworn he did it, so I thought that was like a little throw to A New Hope as well.
I think so.
When he called him Darth.
I think he did. They did. One of the things that they did good with this writing was they did try to pay attention to the connective tissue between what's happening in this series to the movies that surround it.
Mm-hmm.
And try to pull on those fibers to bring them together, which there was a number of connective tissues that wasn't appropriate. Like, okay, Vader has a scar on his cheek from something at the end of Jedi, but whenever he gets burned at the end of episode 3, he doesn't have that. And what happens? He gets a scar on his face from this battle, mm-hmm. from the blow that Obi-Wan gave.
I feel like the more you guys talk about that, and it's funny that you're bringing it up, if you pay, it feels when you watch that battle, it strangely enough, and again, you guys might not agree with me, but it does feel like in in weird way, like in terms of the beats, it feels a beat to beat comparison of episode 3 in terms of how things kind of landed out, in terms of the certain beats that would lead into the fights and the crescendos, and almost kind of we landed in the same position again with once again Anakin / Vader taking the big ol' L, and being on his feet, complaining and crying to once again Obi, in the same situation. So beat for wise, I feel like beat for beat, it feels like they could, if you were to line them up, you could, I'm not gonna say that the only difference is where it was one was fought in a desert, in a cold desert. The other one was, fought on some like hot lava pit. But
no, I can see that. I can see how you break it up.
Yeah, if you for the same beats, you can sense that crescendo. So, but yeah,
Escobar, yes. The planet that you see Vader's temple on, that's the planet that they fought on.
Yeah.
There is some contrast to them that way, where it's more earthbound, and earth elements versus the fire. And I think there was an intention for it to have a lot of the same beats. That I think was completely intentional, because you knew it had to play out that way. That was not, I think, by accident. You knew that they had to play it out in a certain way, and you knew Obi-Wan had to win this one because of what happens in A New Hope.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Also, just to kind of move the series forward. Well, I guess what guys, what were your opinions about going back to was it? I hope I might be
Tatooine. Yep.
Tatooine, which going back to Joel Edgerton and the situation with Luke, because we also have to remember we were brought back to, unfortunately, Moses now in the hunt for Luke Skywalker at this point. What were your feelings about that scene kind of plugged in to that moment? And
the Reva scene?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, her character's the one. You want to go first? Sorry.
That's all right. I was going to just mention about how she shows up in the market and she's on the hunt.
Yeah.
And then it plays out where she's hunting for Luke now because she learned about him on the holocron. But go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, no, for me there was three main characters, 3 arcs. Yeah. Vader's arc, Kenobi's arc, and Reva's arc.
Mm-hmm.
Reva's arc was the one that there was no real set conclusion to. And that, in a way, kind of bothers me a little bit because I'm not sure, because she knows way too much information to be left alive in the series. So I don't know if that's going to be for a second season, and it'll delve more into her character. But it was 6 parts, so it's almost 6 hours worth of film. And you should have been able to put a cap on her arc as well, you know what I mean? Like, or at least give more of a definitive answer to her arc.
No, I feel where you're coming from in that situation with Moses Ingram's arc, and with Reva's arc. It just feels very. It should have concluded, in terms of her character failing to complete what she wanted to do. Right. Although it felt like, in terms of the writers, it just didn't really seem like we get what she was trying to do, but her character just was, at times felt very poorly written in terms of how she would reach her moments and how she would reach her points, and to lead into the conclusion that we eventually get, with her just, unfortunately not going with taking out, Luke. So yeah, in a weird way, it's just like how does she fit within the history, and what becomes of her, which is a problem. The fact that she did survive Darth Vader. Out of all the characters, usually when you go up against that guy, other if you're not Obi-Wan or you're not Luke Skywalker, it should have been lights out. Like your character should have been done.
Yeah.
So the fact that they kept her alive, and for her to go after Luke, which really at the end of the day, really doesn't really make much any sense at that point. What do you do with this character? And again, where does she fit within the time in the mythos and her time period, and how long does she move on? It's I don't. Again, is it a situation where the hopes that they get a season 2, is that what they're trying to bite, that they can continue to explore this character? But yeah, it just, like you said, Dennis, I really don't understand why her arc should have concluded in episode 5, really,
right.
and gone out with the person's death. Which, if that were to be the case, I wish the fight scene on episode 5 would have been bigger of a grand finale for her. Like, she went out truly swinging, and I have to admit, like, going back to like Star Wars, like, again, needs talking with Matt and how we felt about those battles. It wasn't really that great of a battle. Like, it wasn't really great of a battle for her to go off on. So, yeah, it just seems like a character really in limbo that really should have died.
Yeah,
last season.
I think that, and we've been saying this all series, that like we can't figure out her character, and she's not the strongest character in the series by far, which is unfortunate.
Not the best well-written character.
And I get what the writers, were trying to do with this, and kind of, okay, this is her redemption, and how they went about it. And on a literary stance, it makes perfect sense. It just did not translate well. It's like, okay, she, for whatever reason, and okay, she sees the hollow message and about, okay, getting the boy on Tatooine, But why does she feel compelled, other than, I guess somehow she puts together that's Vader's son, so if I can't get the father, I'll get the son?
Right, to avenge all the other younglings that got wiped out. Yeah.
Right, which at no point did they left the audience to try and figure that out for themselves. No point did they try to explain it, and they didn't do a good job of trying to lead the audience there either, in my mind. But she obviously heals pretty well from getting run through with the lightsaber, because she has to just put a towel around herself. I guess, she's using the Force to keep herself going. All that is very, like Isaac was saying, unfortunately, some lazy writing and just trying to rush things along. The redemption part of where she has the opportunity to kill Luke, and she finally realizes that she's becoming what she has been trying to revenge this whole time, or trying to destroy this whole time. She's turning, she takes that blow and takes down Luke, then she's no better than Vader. And that's her turning point and turning moment, where she realizes that I can't do this. This is not who I am. This is what I've been trying to stop, and this is what I'm becoming. So that's where she gives up there. Where her character goes from there, she's just lost in the desert, or gets lost in the galaxy, like any other Jedi. Does she show up for season 2? I'm not that they've said anything, but I'm hedging my bet that there will be some sort of season 2. All in all, from my understanding, this has been a fairly well-received show. The viewership has been really strong, from my understanding. So I wouldn't see why there wouldn't be, but with anything with Disney Plus, they're slow to announce or commit to a follow-up season. I mean, think of all the Marvel ones that we've seen. The only thing that we know that is getting a season 2 at the moment is Loki. Nothing else we've heard about any sort of continuation.
Well, yeah, I think Marvel-wise, yeah, in terms of the Star Wars universe, in terms of sequels, it's just Mandalorian right now, rightfully
Right.
so. But yeah, it just was Moses was Reva's character. It just was a haphazard, poor storytelling of a redemption arc that felt very clumsy all the way up to the season finale, which really, again, I don't really understand why her character is still around. But if it is just to hopefully keep her around for a season 2, I don't know. But it doesn't really comfort me in terms of her writing, if her writing will get any better for that character. Unfortunately, they didn't do a great enough job that I want her character to be around. So
At no point did I ever. I was excited about her character to begin with, and then I just never really grabbed me.
But with that opposite, it unfortunately keeping her character. And then in that same breath, there was another great character played by Indira Valma playing Talia, which her character was brilliantly fleshed out and was brilliantly acted to go out the way that she did. So I felt like the characters really should have been reversed, where I feel like Tala's character played by Indira Valma should have stayed around longer, because I could see that character could have played off very well with Obi-Wan, because it felt like with her character, it seemed like they were going to build like a romance interest, which you could see going, and then you can kind of play within that range for the limited time that they have, versus what they did with Reva's character. I think they should have. I really felt like that they should have killed off Moses' character and kept around Tala's character. I feel like they wasted a really good, well fleshed out character in Tala. That's what I'm very upset about with the series. So,
Dave, would you like to rebuttal that?
No, I'm just like the whole saber to the stomach thing. Like they should have given us a little thing on how the Grand Inquisitor survived his stab to the stomach.
Yeah.
I have a feeling Reva. I just picked up on something that it could be dumb. It just in part 3, when Reva was in that room talking to the fifth brother and the other sister or whatever, and he used the Force to flop her down on the table. She gets back up. She holds her stomach, and then looks down, goes, "I'm going to report to Vader whatever information they had." Now and then if you look at the recap for part 6. They had a little scene where it looked like Anakin and then Vader were both plunging a saber into her. So I'm wondering, when she was running as a youngling, did she get stabbed and somehow survived it? And then the Grand Inquisitor hit her back in that same spot. So it just re-injured whatever was there. Again, sloppy writing, but I'm just theorizing. Yeah, I could be way off here.
So you're saying she got like the Fennec Shan treatment?
Yeah, she had some kind of, the Fennec Shan, she got repaired, some kind of robotics in there, and got stabbed again in that same section. They never showed anything. They never, they, like you said, they put a towel around it. Hey, I'm good.
Wasn't that confusing? Because didn't the Inquisitor say that we found you hiding in the gutters or something like that, or she was found under and it was a little bit all over the place. Like they found her in the gutters, and then she would become an Inquisitor. But in the same breath, too, didn't she also say that she hid under the dead bodies? That way, she would have been picked out by Anakin.
Yeah, she said that. That's what she got stabbed, and she was hanging out with the other ones to hopefully live.
Yeah, she said she was hiding under the bodies, and
it's all over the place with this character. I don't really get.
Well,
it has like 3 different backstories within.
Right. They left her character for you to supremely speculate everything about her arc, as opposed to the other characters.
Yeah, the how I take it, I mean, against the attack from Anakin during Order 66, she hid under the bodies of the fallen younglings.
Right.
And then the Inquisitors didn't find her right away because the Inquisitors didn't exist for a little while after that. So when the inquisitorial staff started to form several years later is when they found her as a street rat in the gutters and, maybe hitting up some spice or something, so that there's a time lapse between those 2 events that wasn't very clear. But if you really you really have to understand your timelines to kind of figure that. And again, that's left to the audience to try and put together. That's not something that should be something that they explain better. And again, they fortunately didn't. So unless if you've done a lot of your research or really watched a lot of things and paid attention to them, which most people haven't, then you're not going to realize that. But it's again, they had a lot of potential with this character, and I think they did the character an injustice with how they wrote her. They had a lot of potential to do a really cool character, and I think if anything in this show, this is where they dropped the ball.
Yeah. I mean, for me, she did grow on me as the show was going on, but the way it ended with her, I'm like, here we go again. What are we doing?
As I heard on Coffee with Kenobi, Dan or his guest was saying, a friend of the podcast, Dan's there, saying, how many lightsabers are buried in the sand of Tatooine? Yeah. You walk around with a metal detector. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, there's another one. Whoop, there's another one. So that's a long running trope now in Star Wars that it's like, all right, let's move along. I liked where going back an episode where you had the lightsabers on a tray on that planet that they were trying to smuggle away from.
Yeah.
And then here's the lightsabers of Jedi's past who've gone through here and had to give up who they are, and symbolically their lightsabers are left behind on display. That I thought was really cool, and her just tossing her really cool lightsaber off to the sand. I don't think she did. She bury it even? I don't think she just tossed it and walked, right?
Sure, I think she just threw it away.
She just threw it in front. They both stood up, and that was it. They left it there.
Yeah, and they just kind of threw it away and walked away.
I like what's considered supposed to be a more elegant weapon from a more elegant time. That's a lot of respect there for it. I guess because what it represents. It represents death. It represents persecution. It represents genocide. So you don't even get the respect of a burial. So I guess.
Don't they know they have a 10-year-old Luke running around there? He could pick that up and actually kill himself. Come on, didn't you screw up the whole canon?
So some sand person comes along. Or Jawa picks it up.
Tika might pick it up and sell it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the unfortunate part. I mean, I love the exchange line at the end of them saying that where did I have it here? About being free.
Mhm.
He's like, have I become him? And Obi-Wan goes, no, you chose not to. Who you become now is up to you. And then she says, now you're free, and we're both free. And I do like that line. I like Obi-Wan's lines. It's just what they did with her. Just, it's a shame. It's a shame.
She's now Reva Skywalker.
Well, I don't think she wants to be Reva Skywalker.
Yeah,
that's exactly what she was trying not to become.
Not to be, yeah.
She's Reva Palpatine. Ray, we have found your mother. It's yeah. I think that's the most unfortunate thing to come out of this series is, the Inquisitors. I don't think were handled as well as they could have been.
No.
Just on a whole.
No.
You really could have gotten a sense of you got a sense of the power of Darth Vader again. And I saw someone post online about how in the original trilogy, you learn that Vader's this powerful and dark character, but you never, but when you got the prequels, you kind of lost that sense with finding out about who Anakin is. He's just this child and misdirected, and you watered the character down.
Mm.
But then with the end of Rogue One, and then with him in this series, you get that dark, that foreboding. You remember why Vader is one of the quote unquote best villains of all time.
This series is what I actually wish we would have got for episode 3. Instead of him just being flipped to Vader at the end of episode 3 and going, no! You know what I mean? This is the kind of what I wanted to see back then, because he wasn't really Vader at that point. Now he's Vader at the end of the Kenobi series.
Yeah, even at the beginning, the earlier parts when we first see him in episode 2, where we first see him, there's still that dual nature of him, but by the end, he is fully the Vader that we see in 4, 5, and 6. You get the sense of, okay, he's discovered his purpose and his transformation is complete. The entire series of Kenobi is a story of transformation and discovery. And it's not just Obi-Wan's transformation and discovery back to who he was and what he needs to be going forward, but it's Vader's transformation from who he was to what he has become.
To full-blown Vader. Yep.
Yeah. So.
Which was emphasized by the Imperial March.
Yep. And getting the Emperor reprising his role, Ian McKellen's up there, and just portraying it again. I sense, there's a problem with you, my friend. I found that was interesting. The wording where he starts off, he calls him his friend. At the end, he's referring to him as Vader. Yeah. And again, it's that connective tissue between the prequels and the originals. Mm-hmm. Did you pick up on that, Isaac?
Yeah. No. Again, based on what was the material that you're working with within the timeline, you have to make sure that you make those connections at some point. So yeah, I wasn't too shocked about the Emperor making his appearance and basically reminding him, hey, you got to let go of your emotions and any light that's in you, and make sure that you got to be full baddie when New Hope comes around, man. So stop being a punk and get that crap in order.
We have a bigger picture here, man. Come on.
The Emperor slapping him around a bit. Come on, you're my general. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Stop moping around.
Big picture again. Big picture.
Yeah. Stop moping around your previous master and get your head in the game, Anakin. Jeez. So yeah. So. Mm-hmm.
It was still cool to see the Emperor again in that hologram.
Yeah.
That was cool. I don't think quite as cool as one of my favorite moments in seeing Qui-Gon finally showing up. I had a feeling that was going to happen at that point. But even though I suspected it, to actually see it happen,
Yeah, it was awesome.
that I was really ecstatic about that. I was giddy.
I thought they were going to do it when he was clearing out his cave. I thought he was going to pop up there, but...
You left something behind the rock.
Yeah.
You dropped something. Fooled you. That, and I think the that is up there, but I think my favorite moment was when Obi-Wan met Luke and he said the infamous "Hello there."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got that gave, as silly as it sounds, that gave me goosebumps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the beginning of the long history of Obi-Wan looking over Luke's and finally kind of coming out of the shadows and really kind of being more of an important part of a family figure now and into Luke Skywalker's life. So that was a pivotal moment to the beginning shifts to New Hope.
He's no longer the creepy old guy watching Luke from a distance with binoculars.
But did that ruin anything as far as canon when he met him?
No, because it's left ambiguous in the originals that Luke knows of him. So it's just like Leia.
Well,
they
kind of cleared that up, though. He's like, we got to keep our relationship a secret. So that kind of helped to close up.
But he also said, if you ever need help, please call me again. But they know of that character. They know of Ben Kenobi. It never explains the relationship, how they know of him, or anything beyond that. But there is a familiarity. It's never explained to what extent, or anything beyond that. But the fact that they know of his character doesn't really mess with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Isaac, any favorite moments out of this one?
Favorite moments? I guess.
Don't struggle too hard.
I would have to say the favorite moments would have to be within 6. Again, the battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader would have to be the more favorite moments in terms of that fight sequence. Would have to be the more better standout moment for the series. But other than that, it was okay. That would be my only favorite moment. I could really stand out from it. So, yeah.
Dave, what's your favorite moment out of part 6?
6 had all kinds of eye candy. Just like in the beginning, Vader and the Inquisitor together, the cracked mask. What else? The Qui-Gon ghost. All of it. It just phenomenal episode. That was the way to go out.
Okay. So, if we were to rate just part 6, what would we give part 6 on a scale of 1 to 10? Dave?
I give it a 9.
Isaac?
I would give it a 8.
And I am going to see your 9 and give you a 9 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, on a whole, I actually do have these written down in front of me. So, part 1, Dave, you gave it an 8. Isaac, you gave it an 8. I gave it a 7.5. Part 2, Dave, you gave it a 7. I gave it a 7. Isaac, you gave it a 5. Part 3, I did that one by myself, didn't I?
Yeah.
So part 3,
No,
I
that you
gave
did
that.
with Matt.
Nope, I did that with Matt. I gave it a 6. He gave it a Twinkie.
Give it a Twinkie.
Part 7, part 4, I gave that one a 7. And what else was on that with me? Part 5, that was me again. That was a 9. Isaac, you gave it a 6. And then we just gave this ones our 9s and 8s.
Yeah.
So on a whole, for Obi-Wan, Dave, how would you rate it?
The overall series,
Overall series.
I give it an 8, a strong 8. The only reason why for me it's an 8 is just the mishandling of the Inquisitors and the Reva arc. Had they elaborated a little bit more on those, it could have been a 9, 9.5 easy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Isaac?
I would go and give it I think overall I'd give it a 7. I would have to say overall the series, I think my issue with this entire series has been the pace and overall the build up. Again, speaking of the last, and it's been a big issue with Star Wars shows on their slow pace and then the unfortunate need that they have to ramp it up literally at the last episode to hopefully wrap up a lot of ends where you felt like if better writing and better pacing could have built up to the moments to the climax and into its conclusion, I think would have made the series a lot more better. Because again, and going back to what David has said, the poor use of the Inquisitors. Again, the Inquisitors were just there for show. They really haven't really been there. And then you get your typical actor cameos that figure a way to be the character for the lore. But I just think this series, in my opinion, just I think this series struggled in needing to be contained because of the end result of what A New Hope is going to bring in terms of Obi-Wan, and from what we know about the episodes, it isn't the same with the Mandalorian or Boba Fett, where you feel like the stories can kind of go anywhere and they can kind of work with this vast palette, because we don't know a ton of the Mandalorians and we don't know a ton of Boba Fett. But this felt way too contained, where unfortunately I feel like maybe the writers couldn't really go out of the way to do too much moving forward. So so I would give it a 7 at this point.
And
Okay.
to follow up on that, that's what concerns me about a season 2 of Kenobi, because they managed to tiptoe without really stepping on any canon. If they do a second season, now where are they going to go? You didn't screw up anything, so will they? How can they have a second season without screwing up anything in their timeline? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and
I can answer that question because we have evidence of it from Rebels, but that's where you're going. Also, you can step outside now from the episode 4 and episode 3 bubbles, because you've now covered that. You've taken care of that. You move away from Luke and Leia. You move away from Vader. You take those parts out of the picture, and you focus more on Kenobi and an adventure that he has. He can have an adventure with Reva, or somebody else. He can even meet up with Roken again, but you eliminate that. But now you have to keep in mind that Rebels will be starting up shortly, and he does make appearances there, so you have to keep that continuity going. Since we've established Rebels is canon, so you have to work that angle. But like Isaac was saying, you don't have that issue with Boba Fett. You don't have that issue with Mandalorian. I would actually even beg to say that Mandalorian doesn't have the pacing issues that these other series has had so far. Boba Fett had the pacing issues. Start off really slow, rush at the end. I feel Mandalorian's pacing has always just generally been better on a whole.
yeah.
because it's just completely free from anything and everything. The I don't know if Andor is going to have that same situation because you only have, as far as we know, one character that has anything to do with anything. And when we're introduced to that character, he's in, the back scums of some downtrodden planet. So beyond that, you have, there's Mon Moth shows up in that. So you have a little bit there, but again, minor character versus dealing with 4 major characters. I think that was the hardest thing with this series, that you had 4 major characters that you knew had to continue on.
Yeah.
1 or 1.5 major characters that have to make it through. You give a lot of playing ground, a lot of more liberties to writers to be able to introduce other characters that could have unknown fates. So that
and to move on to that, and my fear of them trying to do a season 2, like I said, like what David said, I feel like to me, I feel like they've concluded what they need to accomplish with this, and I don't know where they would go with. Like you said, I know you gave great examples about what they could do with the season 2, but then again, I also feel like that even puts even more of a constraint in terms of what you can do with Obi-Wan moving forward, unless, like you said, Obi-Wan goes on this wacky adventure that hey, turn B left and go on these crazy adventures until you have to pivot right back into being, the old dude that has to teach, that has to kind of tell Luke that he's a Jedi, moving forward. So it just feels like, and again, this has been my personal beef with Star Wars. I have to admit, like the Skywalker saga puts very weird restraints of what you can do, because you can't bother canon at this point, versus everything else in Star Wars where it's like, okay, it's free range. Everything, like I said, Mandalorian has free range because it doesn't tie too much directly with the Skywalkers. Boba Fett should have been a better show because it really doesn't tie anything to the Skywalkers, other than that certain episode where we had to finally see where's Luke been. Luke has been moving forward.
Oh, Luke is building his temple that we see again.
Yeah, he's started to build the temple, which been the start of Jedi Academy, So that was really kind of the only connection with Skywalkers. Other than that, anything that contains to the Skywalkers has to be very specific, and I feel and I just feel like with Obi-Wan, he plays way too close to that canon to where I feel like doing the season 2 wouldn't really, in my eyes, wouldn't really progress anything more further for the Skywalker saga. So.
Exactly. I agree with him. I mean, it appears that they accomplished what they wanted to.
Yeah.
So, do I want more? Yes. But if I'm really happy with what they put out, so if they were to end it, I'm good with that too.
Yeah. I mean, I would be completely fine if this was a one and done.
Yeah.
There you go. It is almost 6-hour movie.
Yeah.
Personally, I hope it's a one and done. Like, to me, like I would not want to see a season 2 just because of you like I said, like they said, I feel like you completed what you needed to do with this character, and I think it's time to look into other parts in the galaxy for other characters and build on those adventures. I believe. Like I said, like Andover, like I'm very interested because it has nothing to do. It has everything to do with Star Wars, but it has, this is kind of the first time where we're not really dealing with the Skywalkers. We're dealing with everyday people, and how they handle the Empire and the beginnings of a rebellion which starts off into Rogue One. So.
Well, you get some of that in the Rebel series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're also seeing it some in the Bad Batch. So we're getting more into that territory, which I think is a wonderful territory because the movies really never touched on it.
Yeah.
you were told about it, it was inferred, or it was left to your imagination that kind of these things were happening. But now we're getting a lot more. So this is a beautiful area to be exploring. But if you step away from the Skywalker center of it, there's a lot to explore, and not mess up anything else. Then you got like Ahsoka that's coming out. That again, that takes place after the fact, and won't have anything to do that we know of with anything Skywalker. And that's going to be, again, that's a moving forward series from an ending point. They don't have to worry about what happens, because we don't know what happens to these characters, other than the ghost ship does show up at the end of Rise of Skywalker. But that doesn't have to play into anything, because Chopper shows up in one of the movies too, and that doesn't mean anything. So that is yet to come. But overall, I'm happy with what we're left. I know this has been a passion project for Ewan McGregor since Solo came out, and we finally get to it. I think they did it justice. I think doing it this way did serve it better than if it was condensed. I mean, let me see what you guys think. How would this been better? Did this work as a 6-part series, or would have been better as a 2 hour 40 minute movie?
Well, most of the episodes are what, like 40 minutes on average?
Right. A little shy of 6, but
they could have shaved out maybe the first rescue Leia mission. You know what I'm saying? And save 35 minutes if you wanted to to make it shorter. Other than that, to me, it played out perfectly. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you didn't need the 2 rescue missions. So if you wanted, you could have made it a 5-parter, an hour each, and called it a day.
Okay. Isaac?
That's tough, because I felt like a lot of the episode felt like very, I wouldn't say very fillerish, but
thin.
It felt very thin in terms of its writing. So it's like a wacky in between. Like you would say, one should feel like 6 episodes should have been enough, but like you said, that you feel like you could have shaved some things off to the point where, maybe this could have been a 4-episode series if they could have shaved some things off a little bit, and maybe Disney should kind of waive this weird narrative where we have to have like we need to have an hour between 6 episodes to stretch out, and maybe we have 2-hour blocks where we can sit down and tell a story, because the first 2 episodes, was in the first episode like 30, wasn't one episode like 30 minutes, and the first episode was like what, was 45, and the second episode like
4
30?
was 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Episode 1 was 53, episode 2 was 39.
Okay. So
3 was 45, 4 was 36. That's the shortest of them. 5 is 40, and 6 is 48, the second longest.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I just feel like the writing just left a lot of blank space. It was, and a lot of patchy moments that, again, like 6 should have been good for a series like this, but because I felt like the writing wasn't as strong, made this so empty at moments until like until the season finale, where we had to jam everything into the season finale instead of better pacing. So it's really hard for me to say.
But so you think they could do the whole thing though in under 3 hours? And still,
I think they could have done maybe a 4-episode series. Should have done it, in my opinion.
Okay, so it's still a series, but a much shorter series.
It should have been a much shorter series.
Okay.
And give it a little bit more better leeway for breathing in moments. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so let's hit the conclusion here. Our MVP of the series. So, Isaac, this is your brainchild of segments. I'll let you go first. Who is your MVP of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series?
So my most valuable character throughout this entire series has to be given to the little girl that's captured everybody's hearts. And that be Miss Leo Tega, played by Vivian Leah Blair. She has been the more enjoyable part of this in the series, just because she's been the more light-hearted moments of this show. And I will admit there was a fantastic moment where Obi-Wan gives her the holster, and that begins her moment of being the her journey into politics, but later on being the badass that she will be much down in the road. So I think she's just been the more adorable part of this entire series moving forward. So yeah, I would give that to her, hands down.
On the holster, was that like, did she have that in any of the future movies? I'm trying to rack my brain to see.
Not that I'm aware of, and I was thinking that myself. I'm like
maybe
in Great Heart, but she doesn't have it in A New Hope.
Right. I don't think she had it in Empire. I'm thinking Jedi when she was on Endor.
When she was dressed as the bounty hunter, possibly.
Or what? Wasn't she in like the camo? You know what I'm talking about? Like she had that.
Yeah, and when she was on the moon of Endor.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
She was in the battle camo. Or did she, when she lands on the planet in Force Awakens, and we get her character for the first time, does she have anything then? No.
So I'm reading up a little bit of some information. So yes, it does have significance of the holster, because it would be in Return of the Jedi where she would have it holstered. Yes.
Okay.
Because that would make sense, because they would go because of the stealth mission on yeah. So that is
somehow she gets it off her planet before the planet blows up, and keeps it with her closely when she gets kidnapped. We'll keep this. I'm looking too much into it. I'm looking way too much into it.
Yeah. So yeah, that it would be that would be the most closest thing we would know to why that holster was given to her. So
okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, the answer right there. So Dave, who's your MVP character?
I mean, it's probably the obvious one, the main guy, Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan, because it just you could tell this was a passion. Ben. This was a passion project for him. You could tell just from start to finish his acting, going from the Jedi that was, totally disconnected from the Force to more powerful than we've ever seen him before. Just he carried the show from start to finish.
Yeah, you could really tell he was really pouring his heart into this project.
Yes.
And he did a fantastic job. I'm torn between two. I really want to give it to Tala. How much, in basically 1.5 episodes.
Also,
the impact of that character.
Sorry to cut you off, Matt. That holster is from Tala.
Yes.
That's Tala's holster.
Yes, it is.
So I just want to make that in. Sorry.
That's fine. Yeah. It's Tala's. Again, how he ended up with it, I'm not quite certain on that either.
How did she blow herself up? How did he get the holster?
Well, it's that part where he escaped the guards and he's running back, and I guess
did it fly by him and he caught it? Lazy writing. No.
And it's in perfect, pristine condition.
Yeah.
Was she wearing it though? Was she wearing it in the battle?
Oh, I don't know.
She must have been because that's when she talked about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I'm gonna give it to Leia Organa, Princess Leia Organa. Vivian Lara Blair, fantastic. I didn't realize she's the girl from Bird Box.
Ah.
The Netflix
that
series.
was that Netflix thing, right? With
with Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock, yeah.
Yeah, she's the little girl from that. So makes me want to go and actually watch that now. No, I for a girl who is 8 playing a 10-year-old, where it's usually a teenager trying to play a younger one. She was actually underage of her character. She's 10 now when the series comes out, but considering that they filmed it last year, she just turned 10 this month, June. So she was been 9 when this series started. So she was probably 8 when they recorded it, because they filmed it last year. I thought she did a fantastic job. She really embodied the character of Princess Leia. Writing again to get all the right tones and notes. They did a good job with that, and she did a great job portraying it and delivering it, and doing Carrie Fisher proud of carrying on the legacy of this pinnacle character of Star Wars. So yeah, I my runner-up would definitely be Tala, and it would be a very close match there. But yeah, no, Leia, I think did a wonderful job. She kind of became more of a back character towards the end, but at the beginning, particularly in part 3 and part 4, she did some wonderful work.
Yeah, I can't argue with that because, again, like I said, from parts 1 and 2, I didn't expect her to be in the series. So, shocked she was in it. She pulled it off. I had no issues with her.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah. So, any final notes, gentlemen?
No, nothing at all. Nothing at all. I just think, another Star Wars series on Disney Plus. So.
Yeah. Do we want to say our favorite part of the series?
I've already said that the best part of the
battle,
series was the battle, so it would be kind of repetitive at this point.
Okay. Dave, do you have a favorite part of the entire series?
The entire series?
I know that's a lot.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of there. For me, it would have to be when he was talking to the Emperor, because that is, for me, the conclusion of that. Now we got Vader. The Imperial March goes. Boom. Now he's put all that stuff behind him. He's not obsessed with Obi-Wan no more. Now hopefully we get a Vader series and we go off from there. So, but no, that was my favorite, because the whole thing, it was always a torn Vader. Is he Anakin? Is he this? Is he? But now we know for 100% fact he's Vader.
Even to the point where we had Hayden Christensen during interviews saying, well, they are basically the same person.
Yeah. And
at this point, they're not.
No.
And even Vader himself says, no, I killed him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which was awesome.
Killed him. I took over his body, and you are going to die next. So yeah, that's I get that. For me, it's kind of a weird moment, but something that just stuck out in my mind was whenever you have Vader come out, and this is part 5, and reach forward and pull the starship out of the sky.
Yeah.
Use the Force and rip the hatch off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just really, you very few moments do you ever see the power of Anakin or Darth Vader. And right there, I mean, to take a ship with its thrusters going that can get away from a tractor beam, by putting, easing off the throttle and it gets off the tractor beam. He just plucks that thing out of the sky like a leaf.
Yeah.
Slams on the ground and rips a huge chunk out of the hull.
Yeah.
Like it was paper.
That's a cool moment.
That if you ever need to show someone in 30 seconds why you should fear Darth Vader, there you go. That followed by the scene from the end of Rogue One. Where he kept just ripping through the ship and throwing people left and right to get to the plans.
Yes.
So yeah, that's my little giddy nerd moment on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, gentlemen. I think that concludes our talk on Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you both for coming on. It's always a pleasure talking to both of you. It is something that we need to do more often, so we shall at some point. We have plenty more series and movies coming out.
Mm-hmm.
We have Isaac's movie coming out, Thor: Love and Thunder, where he plays the title role. We get to see Isaac standing in front of the god Zeus.
Yes.
And the girls oogling over him.
When's that? That comes out in what, like 2 weeks or so?
Yeah. 2 weeks, I want to say.
Really? In 2 weeks. Yeah, it drops
2 weeks.
soon.
I already got my tickets.
It drops very, very soon. Yeah, no, nice. I don't know why you put me in Thor. I thought you were talking Korg. Yeah, I played Korg in the series, so you get to see rock hard butt cheeks if people are looking forward to that.
Isaac's chiseled body.
I wouldn't say chiseled. It's a little concave. There's some cuts.
Mine's a little more obtuse. So that's
it's more. It's a little bit more rigid. It's hard to sit down on the bathroom. So
there we go again.
Oh boy.
Hey, at least he's not doing his Grand Inquisitor impersonation.
Well, we are past now the safe harbored part. I feel like now this is where the podcast goes off the rails.
And Leonard's not even on this one.
Yeah.
I've been possessed by Leonard. So.
oh boy, that's a dangerous thing. I'll have to let him know. So yes, again, thank you both, and we'll be talking soon.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you for having me, man. Pleasure.
Our pleasure. Thank you again for listening, everyone, and thank you, Dave and Isaac, for joining me again this week discussing Kenobi. And we may not be done with Kenobi just yet. Find out next week. But in the meantime, make sure to join our conversation. Join the family on social media and let us know what you thought of Kenobi. Join our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Disney Marvels Podcast. On the Twitter, at Disney Marvels, on Instagram at Disney Marvels Podcast, on TikTok at Disney Marvels Podcast, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where summer's around the corner. I'm going to try to go live on there. We'll have to test it out to make sure it works. If not, we'll revert back to the Facebook group. You can leave us a voice message, be heard yourself on the show. You can do this through the Anchor app or Anchor.fm website, or record a message through your electronic device, your smartphone, your tablet, your computer, and email it to disneymarvels@gmail.com. You could also email us any questions or suggestions you may have to that same address as well, which is disneymarvels@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out the latest Disney Marvels blog over at disneymarvels.blogspot.com, where I will try to update that as soon as possible. Links to all of these are in the show notes. I want to thank you for your time. Yes, you, the listener right here. You, not the other person. You. I want to thank you, and each and every one of you, for checking in every week, listening to us. Really appreciate it. We love this time that we get to spend together with you, and we do it for you. And thank you. I mean, I know how crazy life is and how little time we all have. And the fact that we get to spend this time together really means a lot to us. And I know I ask this every week, but it really is the truth. Please either share on social media and share a link out to the show so that way other people know about it. And even better yet, go to Apple Podcasts, go to Stitcher, and rate the show. Or Spotify, and rate the show. It really helps get the word out there. We have all 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts right now, and it blows my mind. I truly am blessed that that's what you guys think of us. Keep them coming, because the more reviews that we get, the more that those platforms will promote the show and help grow the show that way. The more people in this Disney family, the better. Walt believes in a big Disney family, and so do I. Don't forget, while you're at it, to subscribe to the show. This way you always know when new episodes are posted. And while you're at it, consider becoming a premium subscriber to really help the show out. Get those movie reviews going, get some of these other reviews and stuff going. And just, unfortunately, these things aren't free. You can do this over at anchor.fm/DisneyMarvel/support or find our Patreon page. You can also check out the merchandise shop. Get yourself some really cool Disney Marvels podcast stuff, mugs, shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, all sorts of different fun. And it's quality stuff. I have several of the things myself, and they hold up. The images hold up, the product hold up, they're comfortable. They're some of my favorite articles of clothes. So get yourself some. And they're always having sales, so definitely check it out. You can find the links to all these in the show notes, because remember, this show is brought to you by listeners like you. Again, my old proverb here. In Japan, broken objects are often repaired with gold. The flaws are seen as a unique piece of the object's history, which adds to its beauty. Consider this next time you feel broken. Now, of course, I'd like to end this week with a quote from Walt Disney himself. In order to make good in your chosen task, it is important to have someone you want to do it for. The greatest moments in life are not concerned with selfish achievements, but rather with things we do for the people we love and esteem, and whose respect we need. Again, that's Walt Disney. Thank you again for listening, everyone, and I'll see you next time.